She is one of the most widely read poets in the world. Her words have reached hundreds of millions of people across every language, every continent, every corner of the internet, and the human heart. And what is remarkable about that reach is not the scale of it. It is that every single person who has encountered her work has felt somewhere deep down that she was writing specifically for them. She is a poet, she is an artist, and a storyteller whose work reminds us that our own stories are worth telling. Please help me welcome Rupi Kaur.
I don't usually do keynotes. I perform my poetry. I do these like 90-minute sort of like one-woman shows. And I thought it would be nice. Don't worry, you're not going to get 90 minutes of a one-woman show. But I was like, you know what, let me give them a little taste of what I do so that maybe, it like roots us somewhere. So I wanted to start with a poem. And when I was thinking about the piece that I was going to do, I decided that given where our world is right now, given especially where this country is right now, maybe I should do this poem I wrote called Broken English, which is about immigration. And it's about really my parents' story. And so I thought that we would start there, and then we'll jump into something else. I hope you enjoy it. This is Broken English. I think about the way my father pulled the family out of poverty without knowing what a vowel was. And my mother raised 4 children without being able to construct a perfect sentence in English. They were just a discombobulated couple who landed in the new world with hopes that left the bitter taste of rejection in their mouths. They had no family. They had no friends. They were just man and wife with 2 university degrees that meant nothing. One mother tongue that was broken now. One swollen belly with a baby inside. And a father worried about jobs and rent because no matter what, this baby was coming. And so they thought to themselves for a split second, was it worth it to put all of our money into the dream of a country that's swallowing us whole? And Papa looked at his woman's eyes, and he saw loneliness living where the iris was. He wanted to give her a home in a country that looked at her with the word visitor wrapped around its tongue. On their wedding day, she left an entire village to be his wife. And now she left an entire country to be a warrior, and when the winter came, they had nothing but the heat of their own bodies to keep the coldness out. And so, like 2 brackets, they faced one another to hold the dearest parts of them, their children, close. They turned a suitcase full of clothes into a life and regular paychecks. They turned a suitcase full of clothes into a life and regular paychecks to make sure that the children of immigrants wouldn't hate them for being the children of immigrants. They worked too hard. You could tell by their hands, their eyes were begging for sleep, but our mouths were begging to be fed. And that is the most artistic thing I have ever seen. It's poetry to these ears that have never heard what passion sounds like. And my mouth is full of likes and ums when I look at their masterpiece, because there are no words in the English language that can articulate that kind of beauty. I can't compact their existence into 26 letters and call it a description. I tried once, but the adjectives needed to describe them don't even exist. So instead, I ended up with pages and pages full of words followed by commas and more words and more commas, only to realize that there are some things in the world that are so infinite, they could never use a full stop. So how dare you mock your mother when she opens her mouth and broken English spills out? Don't be ashamed of the fact that she split through countries to be here, so you wouldn't have to cross a shoreline. Her accent is thick like honey. Hold it with your life. It's the only thing she has left of home. Don't you stomp on that richness. Instead, hang it up on the walls of museums next to Dali and Van Gogh. Her life is brilliant and tragic. Kiss the side of her tender cheek. She already knows what it sounds like to have an entire nation laugh when she speaks. She is more than our punctuation and language. We might be able to paint pictures and write stories, but she made an entire world for herself. So how is that for art? Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much. When I'm not performing, sometimes I'm facilitating writing workshops. And it's something that I like to do for fun because it really connects me with people. Being on stage is nice, but I also really want to connect to get to know people. And so the people who attend my workshops, they aren't professional writers. Usually they're just curious individuals, and oftentimes they don't even know what they're signing up for because I'm brought out to their workplaces or to conferences where for about 1 or 2 hours, I take everybody through a series of very simple exercises that I've designed to sort of help them just process their inner worlds. And at the end of the workshop, I usually ask everybody to just go around and read their work. And I've noticed a pattern in almost every single workshop I've done. There's always at least one person in the room who, before they begin sharing their poem, they're sort of nervously shuffling in their seat. And one time, it was a biotech founder in his 50s, and another time I remember it was an accountant. And so before they begin to read their piece, they give everybody a warning about how they're not really creative and they've never done anything like this before. And then I listen, and then I offer them some encouragement, and then finally they begin to read their piece, the one that they wrote in less than 15 minutes. And by the time that they're done, the entire room is crying. And I'm in awe all the time because often it's this person, the person who has never done this before, that has everybody in tears. And so I've thought about why that is, and I don't know if this is the answer, but I think that there is something there about this person having this lack of experience, doing this kind of writing that actually lowers the pressure for them to produce a certain kind of results. And when they write from that place, they're actually able to drop their armor, the armor that we all wear, and they're able to tap into something deeper. The room isn't crying because their writing is extraordinary from a literary point of view or anything. No. The room is crying because when we watch someone express something that is so true to them in such an unguarded way, it stirs up something inside of us that we've been pushing down. And that kind of vulnerability is contagious. I feel like I came into this world feeling too much. My parents were very concerned about this. Honestly, I always describe myself as like a sink overflowing, and like constantly. And luckily, I found creative expression, because creative expression helped me manage that overflow. And so when I was 4, I started drawing, and then I later found painting, and then in high school, I performed my first poem. And then by the age of 21, I had written enough poems to put a book together. I thought, okay, cool, this will be like a fun little project. Why not? And so I self-published my first book, Milk and Honey, while I was in college. I thought, this is so cute. I'm gonna sell 50 copies of this book. And then I'm gonna graduate, and then, I don't know, like figure out what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. Like, I think at the time, I was like, I had my eyes set on being like a human rights lawyer or something. And then this book goes on to become the highest selling collection of poetry of modern time. Thank you. It disrupted publishing, and then it changed the way that the genre of poetry was perceived and represented. It was a wild experience, and throughout it, I often got asked, oh my God, how did you do it? And I honestly think that anyone who's ever been asked that question, I do not think that we ever know the answer. But I have had some time to think about it. It's been 10 years since this book has been out. And I think that every poem that I've ever written that's meant something to someone, I think it's meant something to them because I was honest in a way that scared me. I was saying the things that I wasn't supposed to say and letting people see parts of me that our world tells us that we should hide. And in revealing myself to others in this way, they felt seen. And then suddenly they were passing this book on to their friends and their moms and their brothers and their boyfriends, and suddenly millions and millions of copies were being sold. And what was more exciting was there were suddenly waves and waves and waves of young people from all over the world who were suddenly self-publishing their own collection of poetry rooted in vulnerability. And that was really fun to see. Journalists would often ask me, so was it hard to be this vulnerable? And honestly, I feel like I needed to pretend and say that it was hard, but it wasn't hard, because like those people in my workshops who were able to dive deep because they didn't feel the pressure to produce a certain kind of result, being vulnerable at that time actually came pretty easy to me because nobody was looking. If I had known, however, that millions of people were going to read my most intimate thoughts about my most personal experiences, I don't think I would have been as vulnerable as I was. So Milk and Honey comes out, and then a few months later, I ended up shooting this photo series for a school project. And this was a project I did on periods. And I shot a series of 6 images, and one image in particular, this one up here, it shows a woman obviously laying down. There's a period stain on her pants and on her bed sheets. And I posted this image on Instagram as a part of the study that we were doing, looking at how different platforms produce different reactions to the same visual work. And so everything was going well. And then suddenly I get a message from Instagram saying that they had removed my image because it violated community guidelines, which was really confusing because at the time, Instagram was full of objectifying content. And I knew this because at the time, if you did a quick search of the hashtag girls, tons and tons of images of hypersexualized images of young women would pop up. And so I thought, obviously they made a mistake. This was all a big accident. And so I reposted the image again. And then the next day, they took it down again. this time threatening to disable my account. I was pissed. I was 22. So I wrote this, I just started, I remember like ranting on my phone. And of course, I didn't read this rant twice or even run it by anybody. I just posted it online. And then I went to go hang out with my friends. And you don't even need to read it. It's actually, so I read it for the first time after like 9 years yesterday, 5 very long paragraphs. And it was giving us a little cringe, but it's fine. So I posted it. I like come home after hanging out with my friends, and I see this post has like millions and millions and millions of views, and I was like, oh my God, I am in trouble. I wake up the next day, and the story's everywhere. It had gone completely viral. I mean, it was on like, there were like national newspapers covering it from countries I hadn't even heard of. And my phone is blowing up, and it's a whole thing. I aced the project, by the way. And then the best part was eventually Instagram conceded. This was really funny. I was like, yeah, it was an accident. All right, cool. But it was too late at this point because my public refusal to accept the censorship had already started a global conversation about menstruation, about shame, and about whose bodies are allowed to be visible. This obviously was not a part of the plan. Honestly, just a side note, this has nothing to do with the rest of my talk, but I don't recommend going viral. It's actually quite an intensely traumatizing experience. I don't think I've ever recovered. But that's another story for another time. I did it because, I don't know, that's what my heart was telling me to do, and at the time, I would just like follow my heart. Because we were besties, and we were constantly in flow. Like, my heart would speak, and then I would respond, and then all day long, we'd go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And that's how I ended up writing a book that did things that nobody, least of all me, expected or thought were possible. But then after that photo, and after Milk and Honey, my heart and we lost that connection. And it wasn't on purpose, but the pressure of engineering those kinds of results again and again suddenly landed on my shoulders. And my heart didn't speak that language. I disconnected from my heart, and I went right into my head. Out of fear, I did this out of expectations. I also did it out of the self-surveillance that comes with being a public person. I felt like, first of all, I couldn't even believe everything that was happening to me and the ways that my life was suddenly changing. I was like, oh my goodness, I have way too much to lose to trust my feelings. I need to be smart about this, so I need to let rationale lead the way. And when I did that, everything started to shift for me. Every morning while writing my second book, The Sun and Her Flowers, I would sit down. And then I would look at the empty page in front of me, and I felt like I was failing before I even started. It was the worst feeling in the world because writing Milk and Honey, it made me feel so close to myself. It was like the best experience. And suddenly I'm writing book number 2, and I was like developing physical symptoms. Like my body was unwell because of the pressure I was putting on myself. And eventually, I just ended up losing all love for writing. And then a decade passed with me writing like 3 more books. I was like constantly like touring the world, and each year just pulled me further and further away from myself until I felt so burnt out and out of options. I just finally turned over to my heart and I said, all right, what do you want me to do? And my heart said, stop. Stop, stop, stop. And this message, it came like a full body knowing. It was like so visceral. It came from the same place that told me to publish my first book. It came from the same place that told me to go on stage and perform my first poem. and then post that rant on Facebook about the period photo. And it had been a while since I had heard that voice. So I was a little bit shook. And so I was like, all right, I need to listen. So I closed down my business. I logged off after being like constantly, online for like 12 years. And I stopped doing all public-facing work. And I got a lot of support for my decision. But then there were a lot of people who said taking this kind of break was a bad idea, because if I took this break now, I would never get this kind of momentum back. Everybody warned me that the phone would stop ringing and I would just never be as in demand again, and maybe they're right. But that was also the kind of thinking that had me wringing myself out like a sponge for a decade. Listening to them was only going to lead me down the same road. And it was really hard to walk away from everything that I had known my whole adult life. It was scary. But then I just stayed the course. And of course, there were lots of breakdowns and lots of therapy required and lots of tears. But I stayed the course. And then one day, I'm doing dishes, like 6 months into it. And then suddenly, I felt this like tiny, very tiny glimmer, just a tiny glimmer of inspiration. And I totally freaked out. I was like, okay, act cool, don't do anything. Because I was like, oh my God, I don't want to scare it away, because that's what I've been doing for a decade, just putting so much pressure on this thing that it just abandons me. So I didn't do anything. I was like, okay, cool, welcome, get comfortable. Don't worry about me, I won't bother you. And then about a year into this, out of nowhere, I started to crave writing again. And I was a little scared, but I was like, you know what? I think I'll pick up my pen. So I pick it up, I begin writing, and I couldn't believe what happened next. I wrote, and I enjoyed it. And I wrote without judging myself. And that was the biggest win. Because for so many years, I would write, and there was a critic in my head constantly telling me, well, that's shit, and that's shit, and that's shit, and that's how I lost my love for it. And suddenly, I was writing, and I was just so lost in the experience. I hadn't felt like this since before my first book. It was so amazing. And I know you're probably wondering what any of this even has to do with you. I look at the world and I see how we are so disconnected from ourselves. We're so disconnected from each other. And most of us, we live neck up. We're all in the head. We approach almost everything, especially our work, from a place of intellect. We strategize and we optimize because that's exactly what our culture rewards. It says that vulnerability is a liability and leading with the heart is a weakness. And I'm not here to tell you to pick one or the other, heart or head. But I am saying that we are very much out of balance and we need to recalibrate. Because the change that the heart can make just isn't going to come out of our 5-year plans and our strategy sessions. It just can't. When all we do is try to reverse engineer the results we want from up here, we're constantly responding to the world from a rehearsed place rather than a real one. And people can tell the difference. And I understand why we don't want to be in our hearts. I get it. The world is on fire, and it is so overwhelming, and we feel crushed. It doesn't feel like we're in a good place right now. But I think those feelings are also proof that our hearts are still very much in the fight. And if we have dreams we want to pursue, if we want to take on some of the world's biggest challenges, this moment is calling on us to bring our entire selves to the fight. But how do you hear the heart when the world is so noisy and when our minds are even noisier? When there are headlines and there are meetings and there's a voice in our head that's always planning the next move. We have to intentionally turn toward the quiet. And this means something different for everybody. And we all know what it means for us. It's doing the things that get us really embodied. It's also the first things we sort of abandon when our schedules fill up. And we treat these quiet moments as luxuries that we can't afford to do on a regular basis, even though they often cost us nothing except for our time and our presence. We act like we have to earn the right to do these things again and again, yet without them, we can't really hear what our heart is saying. But imagine if we did get into the practice of doing this kind of listening, and it led us to a place where we could respond to the world from a place of love and not fear, from the kind of vulnerability that has the power to move people. When you leave this room, I hope that you'll give yourself some time to sit in the quiet and ask yourselves what your hearts have been trying to tell you. Are you in your truth, or are you swallowing it? And when the moment comes where your heart calls on you to do something or say something, your head is most definitely going to get in the way. It always does. It's going to show up and be like, no, please, we should not do that right now. We're not smart enough. And we're so tired. Can't someone else just do it? And when that happens, I want you to entertain the belief that maybe you are uniquely qualified to answer your heart's call. Maybe that's precisely why it's calling. Go in that direction that it's been trying to lead you in, even with your knees shaking. It will be the adventure of a lifetime. It's going to be hard, and it is going to be stressful, and some days you're going to want to rip your hair out, but it will also make you feel so alive. The easier path is to shy away, because vulnerability always costs us something. But what we get in return is far greater than we can ever imagine. So if your heart has been asking you to say something, it's probably because someone needs to hear it. And if your heart has been asking you to do something, it's probably because someone needs to feel it. Thank you. Thank you so much. You're amazing. Aw. Thank you. Thank you.
Rupi Kaur!
Thank you.
You may have noticed there are chairs appearing on the stage right now, which is why I'm out here, so we can set up and it won't be weird. You're welcome, stage crew. Because Rupi is not done with us yet, she is about to be joined in conversation by San Diego's own Miki Vale. Yes, hip-hop artist, storyteller, and creative force whose work is deeply rooted in this community and whose voice belongs in exactly this kind of dialogue. Two poets, two storytellers, two women who know what it means to use creativity as a form of purpose. This conversation is going to be something special, so please welcome Miki Vale and Rupi Kaur.
Rupi, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your heart with us.
Thank you. You're such a kind and easy audience, so thank you.
You asked us to sit with a question. What is the thing your heart is trying to tell you? I want to pose the same question to you. What is your heart telling you?
My heart right now is probably, so I took that about a year off that sabbatical, and went back to work just a few months ago. And right now my heart is in a place where it's telling me to remember the lessons that I learned, because there is that pressure to plug myself back into the machine and just constantly sort of keep going. So that's what my heart is saying. And I'm trying to remember like the priorities that I have, which for me right now are like writing my next book and saying yes to things that only kind of put energy into those. That's what the heart is saying. And I constantly forget it, which is good. Doing a talk like this, I'm like, okay, well, even if I don't want to hear my heart, saying these questions out loud to you, I'm forced to also ask myself. Yeah. What's your heart telling you right now?
My heart is telling me to do the thing, make the thing, say the thing, do it all unapologetically. Just show up fully in my full self, and don't be scared. Don't be afraid to do it. Practice what I preach, because I preach it a lot. So practice what I preach. Yeah.
It's funny that we can preach it.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to us, it's like we get fully blown amnesia and just totally forget.
Totally blind to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your work has touched on a lot of important issues: migration, human rights, women's autonomy. What is the relationship between your art and activism?
Because my dad is a refugee. He survived the 1984 genocide that the Sikh community went through, and because of that, I feel like politics were always dinner table conversation, and human rights were always something that we were talking about. And so naturally, I became a community organizer, and as the daughter of somebody who had gone through this just not even very long time ago, I started organizing with a group out in Toronto to get justice for them. And that kind of work kind of laid the foundation of my poetry. So for me, the personal has always been political, and I know it's not like that for everybody, but for me it's been that way, and I feel like for you as well. Yeah.
It's in your DNA.
I don't really know any other way to be. I just feel like as artists, when you look at who speaks up when there is injustice in the world, I don't know, I feel like often it's artists who sort of put themselves on the line, and we say the thing, and it maybe because we're able to feel, and we're so in here that we feel like, well, there's really no other choice. It's so clear.
Yeah. That brings up vulnerability and being able to articulate those things. You're an artist, I'm an artist, but you don't have to necessarily be an artist to listen to yourself and speak what's on your mind and heart. What would you say to somebody who wants to speak what's on their mind and heart, but feel like maybe they can't because they're not an artist?
I always go back to, and I'm curious to know what advice you would give.
Okay.
But when we're kids, we're all writing and we're all painting and just making things. We're so good at play, and then adulthood just drains that out of all of us. And I don't know, I just feel like you don't need to write and draw and do all of these things. Artists, it's so unfortunate because the thing that I get told all the time, especially in my writing workshops, people are constantly apologizing for not being creative. And that's so sad to me because I'm like, everyone, like human beings are like creative by nature. You know, that's how we have survived
Right.
and gotten here. And you don't need to be drawing and painting to be creative. You know, solving problems is creative. I don't know, like cleaning can be creative. There's so many ways to do it. It's not really creative for me, but I know that for some people, you know, they seem very good at it. But there are so many ways to be creative, and I think, like I said, so many of the things that feel meditative and get us connected to ourselves actually don't even cost us anything. And so I think doing more of that, yeah. And you never have to, like, if you do a free write at home, you don't have to show it to anyone. So if you're not going to say it out loud to people, at least, you know, do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Everybody has a voice.
Yeah.
I think that is the first step. I also, in workshops, I have people, that's the first two things, that I'm not an artist and I don't have any talent. And I say that is not true. Especially not the talent part. That's not true. Everybody has a talent. Everyone has some sort of gift. It doesn't have to be singing. It doesn't have to be rapping. It doesn't have to be dancing, tap dancing. It could be anything. It could be playing spoons. Everybody has a gift. And everyone has a gift of some sort. And I think that first step is to recognize that your voice is valuable. And however you decide you want to get that message out, however it comes through you, that is valuable. Do that thing.
How do you get them over that hump when they're like feeling nervous or not secure in their ability to express? What do you share with them to get them?
I share with them a few things. One thing, my go-to is love songs. There are so many love songs. There's an endless amount of love songs. If we felt like, if one person was like, you know what, somebody else wrote a love song, and what I have to say about love isn't valuable, we wouldn't have all this beautiful music.
It's so true.
Everyone has a perspective, and those millions of love songs that touch us in all these different ways, they come from one person's personal perspective. So that's one way I try to.
That's a really good.
Yeah,
that's a really good way to do it. I might steal it.
Yeah, steal it, take it, run with it. It's yours. And I also think vulnerability and seeing other people be brave, like what you did on stage here today, that was very brave. And I think that one person's bravery is another person's permission to be brave. You know.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Totally.
You mentioned Milk and Honey.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't actually know if this was in Milk and Honey, but I read Milk and Honey, and I also read your new one, Love Poems, your newest book. And there was a piece in there that resonated so deeply with me. May I read it?
Sure.
Okay. It's, how you love yourself is how you teach others to love you. And I sat with that for so long. And I actually had a debate with someone about what it means, because they had a different perspective, and we had just two different perspectives. And reading Milk and Honey, the 10-year anniversary edition, you had written notes about how you were different, how you had evolved between then and now. Expound on that evolution between writing what you wrote then and
I was a teenager, essentially. Like, of course, now as a 30-year-old, I don't feel the same ways about all of the things.
Right.
That'd be weird. So yeah, there's like, you know, sometimes I'll read something like that, and like that's like a poem that, like, maybe I would take your friend's side. I don't know if I necessarily, like, that's my perspective anymore. So there are poems like that. And before, when that initially started to happen, when I was reading my old work and like, oh, no, that's not how I feel anymore. I think I felt shame because I was like, I can't believe I like said that, and now everyone's gonna think that's how I think, but now I'm actually thinking this. And then I was like, wait a minute, no, like all of the things can be true. And it's actually really cool. Like, that's why I love like writing and journaling, because it documents like our growth and all of the different versions of us. And like right now, I might not, I might read that line and be like, I don't know if I feel that way, but who knows? Maybe in 2 decades, I go back to that and like, or something completely different.
And it's cool to be able to go back and see how ridiculous you were years ago. I mean, you get to see your growth. It's a good thing.
Ridiculous is right. Like I couldn't even, like that period photo, like the rants I posted, I really haven't read that in 9 years after I posted it. And then yesterday, as I was putting the deck together, I had to do the painful work of reading it, and it was like so cringe that I couldn't. I was like, if I read this whole thing, I might just explode and just die. Like, and then I like didn't want to admit that to all of you because I was like, no, like I can't tell them I feel cringe about this because I'm telling them to be vulnerable. But like, it's fine, I guess. It's whatever. It did the thing that it needed to do at that time.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah.
You have to let yourself be cringe every once in a while. I don't know if you've ever feel that way about, pieces that you've written.
Oh, all the time. All the time. I mean, it's been decades, and I look back at old stuff, and I was just so ignorant. I was so silly, and I'm like, I said this out loud? Oh, my God.
I'm like, I hope there's, no recording of it. That's what I think.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, the first poem I performed. I literally have no idea what I'm talking about. I saw, a week before I performed that piece, I went to this, show where there were, a bunch of hip-hop artists from all different communities, and I was like, whoa, this is so mind-blowing and cool, I want to do this. And then a week later, I saw a poster for some event, and that's what got me to, read my first poem. And I, really quickly, I wrote it, and it's okay, first of all, I'm in, 12th grade. And then the whole poem, I'm really angry at the government. I'm fully in the stereotype of that spoken word poet or whatever. And I'm just so upset and so angsty. And I really, there was no thesis to it at all. And then I don't know, I performed this thing, and I was so lucky that everybody in the audience lied to me and said it was good. Because that kind of kindness and welcoming made me feel so seen and was the only reason I was like, oh my God, I want to keep doing this. And then a week later I was doing it again with maybe a less corny poem. But you have to, it's good that we don't know until later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's evolution.
Yeah, exactly.
Practice makes perfect. You got to take that first step, and it's brave to take the first step.
I find that I'm often inspired by my 18-year-old, 19-year-old self. I'm really just trying to be her because she had so much audacity and she was just so fearless, and now I'm just shaking in my pants all the time, oh my goodness, what will people think? And I did not think about those things. I was fearless in what I wrote and what I created. I don't know if you feel that. It gets harder at times.
Yeah. Okay, yes, and I feel the same thing. So say someone wants to take that first, they do it scared. How would you tell them to take that first step if they're questioning themselves or have imposter syndrome or anything?
Yeah, I think just going back to, you don't have to show anything that you're making to anybody. I was writing for years and just making things. Honestly, I was just using art as a way to heal and just really process my inner world. Anytime I was that overflowing sink, the art sort of caught it. And I think as I don't know, we're scared to try new things because we have this weird pressure. I don't know. I feel most of us have this. We don't want to try it because we want to be good at things immediately. And there's such discomfort at picking up a paintbrush or whatever, doing a new thing, and the result doesn't look so great. And then I just constantly have to try to remind myself that we really need to just get better at play. And that's the thing that really allows us to sort of connect. And that's why I love doing these workshops, and I love that it's people who've never written before who attend, because I do these free writes where you're not even supposed to think. This shouldn't feel like work. And I tell them to sort of like leave their thinking brain to the side, and I give them the sort of prompts. And I say, none of what you write today has to make sense. Like literally, if you're mid-thought, your brain just sort of goes somewhere else, let it go, who cares? And we're gonna do it by hand so that you can't like enter and erase and like backspace or anything like that. So I think like that, like free writing, if a young writer were to ask me, that's how I still do it. Like I start my writing sessions with a free write. I think for me, I don't know how you feel about this, but I think 80% of writing a poem, 80% is internal, it gets written, and it's only like the end when you pick up your pen and you start writing. That's like one of the last steps. And so I try not to get in my way by approaching my desk and trying to control and dictate the writing. Because when I do that, there's a lot of friction, and so that's why I love to start with a free write. I just sort of like turn off my thinking brain and I just do my morning pages, and my heart will reveal exactly what I'm supposed to be writing because it's already been internally writing it. And so I think free writes in that way can be really powerful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How do you sort of get out of the head?
How do I get out of the head? Movement. I walk. Yeah, I walk every morning. That's my morning pages.
Nice.
Like talking to myself. I literally talk to myself. I put in my little earbuds so I don't look as crazy as I'm being, and I start talking to myself. My mind is clear, and I like to be up before anybody else is up, and just.
And you do it out loud.
I do it out loud.
That's so cool.
Yeah. If you see me walking, well, there's a 50-50 chance I'm reciting a song too. Okay, so you never know if I'm being crazy or not. Fresh out of your sabbatical.
Yes.
What's next? How are you moving forward with intentionality and purpose?
It's a good question. Okay. I'm trying to maintain a work-life balance, which obviously for 10 years I didn't have. I just put all my personal life, everything on the back burner. So there was like a decade's worth of backlog to go through. And so now I'm trying to make sure that doesn't happen again. So I think work-life balance, and I'm really trying to think about, I don't know, the reason I also took my sabbatical was I felt this like message, like I for a long time I didn't take that break that I needed because I had this fear of being irrelevant or being forgotten, and I think, you know, the machine feeds us these insecurities. And then I developed a fear that was even bigger than those fears, and that was the fear that I was gonna never be able to create the art that I could create if I didn't take this break. And that was so scary. I was like, I don't really care if I'm forgotten, irrelevant. If I don't make what I wanna make, I am gonna be really, really heartbroken and in regret. And so those are the sort of projects that I'm trying to like really focus on. And those are projects that, you know, come naturally. Like this next book I'm working on is a collection of poetry that's all about, you know, heartbreak. It's about the process of finding yourself after leaving like a decade long. I was in a relationship for a very long time with one person, and so I'm really excited about that work. And again, it's like I'm excited about it because it's aligned with the heart rather than, I don't know, maybe what my like other people might want me to write about.
Right. You're doing it for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for everything, for sharing everything today.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. It's been very nice to get to know you. And thank you all. Give her some love.